All right. One of the most incredible things about the last year and a little more than a year is been putting myself back out there. When we moved to Spain at the beginning of 2020, I'd gotten out of the Corps in so May of 2019 was my last event. And so the rest of 2019, I didn't go to any conferences. I was quite burned on the conference game. In 2020, obviously we moved to Spain and COVID happened, 2021, 2022. So I have 4 years was not in rooms like this. Wendy and I have been talking about how it fuels us. It fuels me. I need it. I need to be learning. I need to be around people. I need to be around energy and ideas and inspiration. I just need it. And so Todd Bookspan is just one of the most generous guys in our industry. And he is partnered with Dave Savage and spent hours and hours and hours and hours interviewing and putting out content and helping people in our industry. And luckily, this was the first year the Modern Mortgage Summit was being hosted semi in person. And I was fortunate enough to be asked to speak. And believe it or not, it was the first time I ever met Todd Bookspan in person. You guys ever watch somebody on video so much, like you think for sure you've met them in person? And then I remember meeting you at the Cosmopolitan. And I was like, damn, I've actually never met you. I actually don't really know you, but he was like such a celebrity to me that I swear I knew him. And it was then I started learning about how he owned a bike shop and, that he was a stay-at-home father for years. And then what he'd done in the mortgage business. He's had like literally 9 lives and 9 careers and building regions. And, his wife runs operations and then shrinking the region to a branch and then having a team. And in the meantime, building the Win by Noon business and being an avid investor. But like getting to spend time with you, Todd, you're just that like even water, that rock that gets smashed on the shore. Like you are that guy. You are pretty unfuckwithable. You're just calm and easy to be with. He's got 3 daughters in his 20s and he's got an unbelievable relationship with his daughters. And it's something that I really admire. He's been married for 34 years. And oh, by the way, he secretly closed 700 loans in COVID because he went back to originating. His team is now with us at Guild, which I never thought would happen. I mean, he called me one day, was like, hey, I want to talk to you about. I was like, what? You, me, out of all the people you're calling me first? Oh, I didn't know that. Wow. So it was in March of last year that I went to Vegas and that was my first event. And it was a catalyst for me to get my fire back, to be like, what does the industry need? What are people thinking about? What am I passionate to do? What's my unique ability? Because I kind of lost it. Like Chantry, I'd spent the last 2 years laying people off. Guys, I laid off over 65 people with Andy Stewart by my side. I mean, we went through 6 rounds of layoffs. And I mean, the first round, you're going, okay, it's fine. That, the second round, oh, by the 5th round, I mean, it was brutal. And I had to really dig down deep and go, what do I want to do? I don't need to do this, but what do I want to do? And if I'm going to leave my kids every day and go to work, like I want to do something that matters. And it was because of Todd inviting me and putting me in that room and then going to dinner with Todd and him saying, yeah, I'm part of this Be Wealthy mastermind. You should come. And I'm going, you're rad. Rad people. Gail and I want to have alignment with our wealth again. I'm going. And I said, yes. And Gail and I went with Todd down there. And then he introduced me to a whole new world of people. And then it's just, our life has gotten much better and richer with you in it, Todd. And the fact that you've trusted me to do this. And now he said at the VIP dinner, he's 10X is to build $1 billion branch and group again. So now we're getting to be partners in building something. And I am so jacked for the first time ever in my 20-year career to actually be learning about the Win by Noon planner and to be adopting it into our teams and our business. So let's give it up for the man, the myth, Mr. Todd Bookspan.
All right, so I have a few things I have to confess about. Number one is I hate speaking at the end of an event, but this event is different. The room is full, right? Some of the speakers had places they had to fly, like Cody's got to go to Hawaii. Like, oh my gosh, that's really rough. But you're all in, and you're all in for for a lot of reasons. Number one is because you're all badasses, as Shayla would say. Shayla has put together an incredible lineup of people in an amazing event. In fact, let's give her another round of applause. That's super loud, like even louder than that, because it's an amazing event. And you're all in. You're here because you want to be better. And I just love that. I believe from all of my heart that you have to be somewhat of integrity. And I was just telling Galen that when I speak, I always say, hey, there's a chance I may not be there the second day. I need to speak the first day. And it's always true, because there is a chance that something could happen and I could have to leave the event early. If I'm going to speak at an event, I stay. But I say that because I know on the second day that people at those average events aren't going to be there because they're average people. And so I love the fact that I have the opportunity at the end of the day to talk to you. And my confessions are a few. Number one is that Shayla blew it. I mean, 34 years I've been married. So not only could I not text my wife to say, hey, I want to go on a date with you, because cell phones didn't exist. I couldn't Google, even if she had a cell phone, I couldn't Google the number because Google didn't exist. We did meet in high school, and I did have to call her before we started dating from a payphone. A lot of you've never seen a payphone or know what a payphone is. I'm part of the 66% of loan officers who are over 50. I think I could go on and on. You've already seen that Deb's a little spicier than I am. We do a lot together. We hosted our first Exactly What to Say certification, and I brought my business development manager who's worked with my team for 10 years. And at the first break, she came up to me because, Deb's going on Deb stuff. Deb X, as she would call herself. And she's like, does your wife know Deb? I'm like, she does, and she loves her. And so I'm just like the boring person. Shayla called me a rock. I'm not the speaker who's going to get up here and just light people on fire. And my goal is to impart with you really what I've learned over the last 2 days and how to take that, use the planner that's in front of you. That's something you're like, I don't want to carry a notebook like this. I haven't had one since high school. But how you can use it, whether it's for yourself, if you're a team leader, how you can use it with your team, how you can use it with a realtor, you can use it with a realtor team to really help improve. And I normally teach with slides. Slides are my script. So I've got 2 slides. That's all I have today. Normally I would have for 30 minutes, I might have 250 slides. That's how, literally, I'm not kidding. That's how my speaker coach taught me. Each one would have big letters up above, wouldn't have anything below, right? Because you don't want to have anything low because you might have someone's head blocking it. So there's things I've learned about public speaking. I never speak with notes. And I rewrote what I was going to say, not just this morning, but as I went through the day, and I have notes really for the first time in a long time when I talk. I decided I was going to add the word rad to my title because Shayla uses it a lot. And so I renamed my talk Rad Choices and Rad Actions, because choices and actions, I think, is what life is all about. One of the things that Josh said that really resonated with me, I don't know if it resonated with a lot of you, but he said, gosh, I went through this really hard time and I had to go to work the next day. But because I have a schedule, because I know specifically what my commitments are, because I know what my standards are, because I've already made my choices. I don't have decision fatigue because my choices were already made. This is what I do, and I do it every day. He was able to get him back on autopilot, make his 10 calls, and kick ass. And so I was also confessing to Galen that there's some Twizzlers licorice over there on that table, which is my all-time favorite candy. I don't have an off switch. That's a small bag. If it was a 1-pound bag, I would have eaten it this morning. If it was a 3-pound bag, I would have eaten it this morning. I have no off switch when it comes to sugar, but I'm off sugar. And Galen's like, well, isn't it nice just to be so laser focused and used it? What was your word you used? Boundaries. He said, we have boundaries. And so what I want to walk you through is how you can use this tool to set boundaries, how you can use this tool to have the design life that Allison talked about, how you can use this tool to do what Cody does. What Cody didn't tell you is that as a mom who has her son, JJ, most of the time, she gets done work at 2 o'clock every day. And you can't do that unless you are laser focused on what you do. We heard people talk about saying no, right? Brett talked about how he says no about things. And when you're really clear on your boundaries and you're really clear on you've already made those choices, it's really easy to be better. It's really easy to achieve the goals that you want. And it's really easy to live that life by design. It's never going to be perfect. You're always going to have days where you thought you were going to just crush it, where you get thrown off because something comes up. However, what I would say is that once you understand how important it is to be crystal clear on what's most important to you, on what your choices are and what actions you need to take, it's actually pretty easy. So I just wrote down all sorts of notes of things that people said. Shayla started off and said, number one is you have to believe that you can do more. But what I really cared about, what she said, number two is you have to have a plan. It's not about doing more. It's about doing the right things. So really what happened is that Shayla kicked off and then set me up. And then Nancy got up and then she talked about choices and action. She set me up. And then Shayla said, or maybe it was Nancy, one of them said, if you're the same person, you're going to get the same results, right? Set me up. Then Shayla mentioned commitments and standards. And then Josh said that he fills his calendar all the way up, and then you can get selected. That's how he coaches people. Josh said that, now I'm sure I can't read my writing. That's really bad. He said that he needed to be, all right, I'll figure that out in a minute. We'll talk about that one. But it was piece after piece after piece. Shayla said vision. She asked us, do you know what you're going for? Do you know the 20%? And then how can you win by noon? And so I really just want to walk through. I don't have time to teach the whole planner. My other slide is just the QR code. I'll throw it up there. I'm going to do next week. Deborah and I are teaching exactly what to say. So it's going to be the following week. But if it just goes to my link tree in the top one, it'll be a 1-hour webinar where I'll really do a deep dive into just the nooks and crannies of the planner and some other things. But what'll be most important is I'm gonna highlight it the way that I think I can maybe shake you up a little bit and get you all kind of focused. And so there's a bunch of different versions of the planner. You guys all have the launch planner. So the launch planner is not dated and it has the instructions in it. Now, Brent was telling me he really likes the instructions. First he told me he hated me because he looked at his planner and it showed him he didn't do all the activities he thought he was going to do this week. But that was okay. Katie told me at the VIP dinner that she was able to fill out her homework because she tracks it all in her planner. So a lot of people made me smile about how they're using it. But we created this one because people would be like, oh, well, the quarter doesn't start for a month, so I can't buy your planner now. So we came up with an undated one so people can start at any time. So my encouragement is for you all, you're all going to actually start it today because I'm going to have you open it up in a minute and start it. The directions are really technical. Don't get overwhelmed by them, and I'll walk you through why not to do that. But my wife is a very detailed person. How many people are married to someone who's the opposite of them besides me, right? So I fly by the seat of my pants. My wife is very, very detail oriented, and she took my bullet points and she turned it into something that people could read and study. So the really nerdy people love the directions. The people who are like me are like, oh, that's way too much. I can't even open the planner, and they put it aside and never use it. Once someone subscribes, you get a dated version. I don't like planners that don't have dates in them. It's a pet peeve of mine, and you have that. We've got a loan officer version. Deborah Bird helped me. We've got a plug-and-play social media version that tracks social media. We've got a real estate agent version for your real estate agents. We've got an insurance agent version for your insurance agents. We have a executive version for just general sales. And the only reason I say that is because you can think about who are the partners. If I can become a decent person with this planner and improve my life, who can I help improve their life? And then last but not least, I've got a passion project of mine. We talk about here, what are these big goals we're going to set? I set a goal 5 years ago. So it maybe doesn't make me look that good because it's just coming to fruition now. Because I finally just said, is this really important to me or not? Either I'm going to do it or not do it. I also had to play guitar on there. Now I'm going to go to Spain, apparently, if I'm going to learn flamenco guitar. But I took guitar off the list. It didn't happen, but I'm going to come up with I've got an entrepreneur edition coming out. It's a little fancier. Jody told me that this was too big to fit in her purse, and she had the fancy full focus planner. So we're going to come up with a small version. That'll be fancier. It won't be loan officer specific, but I'm sure I'm going to have a lot of loan officers who want to stick it in something smaller. They'll use it. All right. So we talked about at the VIP dinner that time is an unfair advantage. Who here feels like that they really, truly have control over their time? There we go, Shayla, of course. My wish for you all is that I can help you have a little more control over your time. We talk about accountability, right? I love this idea. I've never heard anyone put like, Shayla, do you want mild, medium, or hot sauce accountability? This is a tool that if you run a branch, you can use to hold your teams accountable. But it's really, to me, it's self-accountability, right? I've set a standard for myself. So I always ask myself, and when I'm talking to people who are getting ready to use the planners, what are your standards? Like, do you actually set standards for yourself, right? Josh's standard, I'm going to call 10 people in the car every day, right? My standard is I'm going to talk to. So again, not call. I'm going to actually talk to 10 realtors a day. I always laugh. I mean, I get in front of loan officers. I talk to 50 realtors a week because it's a standard I set for myself. And I'm not doing the business and I'm talking to more realtors than a lot of loan officers talk to. And I thought, well, that's really odd. But I asked them, well, what's your commitment? Like, do you have a standard number of realtors you're committed to talk to every day, every week? And they all look at me like I'm a moron. I'm like, well, no, like, how are you going to grow your business if the number one thing you need to do that you just told me 5 minutes ago is you need to talk to more realtors, but you're not actually scheduling the time to do it. So I want to help you understand how you can use the planner as an unfair advantage. It's going to maybe rub you a little bit wrong, so don't hate me. I'm really glad y'all gave me the 5-star reviews already. Shayla mentioned just a quick tip on a script. You know, one of the things that I built into my team scripting is awesome. Hey client, my goal is to provide 5-star service for you. So anytime along the way that you don't feel like we're providing 5-star service, please let me know. And then during mid-process survey, hey, is there anything that I've done that has made it so you wouldn't be able to give me a 5-star review? We get crystal clear on it because we had a loan officer and she was so excited because she was going to get a 5-star review. She bragged about it. I closed this client. I'm super grateful. She loved me. She's going to write me a Yelp review. And then she gave her a 4-star review. And she was just so crushed by it. And so then again, at the end, right before close, awesome. Hey, we're just one last time. Is there anything else that I didn't do that would keep you from giving me a 5-star review? Again, put it out there that that's what you expect. And then that's what you're going to get. All right. So we are going to open the planner to page 25. No, I lied. Page 15. We're going there first. So I never criticize others, but I don't believe that you can there's perfect. I feel like perfect's like the horizon. You're always going towards perfect. I believe in ideal. I want to be the best I can be. And so I believe in the ideal week. And so one of the things that I find is that when I talk to people and I say, well, what is your plan for tomorrow? They're like, I don't know. And oftentimes when you don't have these guardrails, right? Who here goes bowling with their kids or has bowled recently? Do you guys put up the bumpers like I do, or do you like you're okay with falling in the gutter? Right? Do y'all know that you can put up bumpers now so that the ball doesn't go in the gutter? And it's inevitable that I'm going to throw the ball a couple times. It's going to bounce off the gutter and it's actually going to get down a bunch of pins. It's pretty amazing. And so for me, the ideal week are my bumpers. I put up the ideal week so I can look at it. And it's going to sound really crass, but what I'm looking at is, am I doing the things that are most valuable to me, to my team, to my business, to my family, to my legacy, to myself? And so what I want you to do is we're going to just real quick, you're going to grab your calendar on your phone. Again, I know you all have this on your phone, and I want you to look at next week, and I just want you to fill out 15, and I want you to write in there what your week looks like. Now, if I had done my slides, I would show you. So like I'm busy right now because I got all this travel I've been doing. And so you really can't see it, but I literally put boxes around it. So if I have an hour meeting, I've got a box here from 9 to 5 next Tuesday and Wednesday, because that's when Deborah and I are teaching. You know, we're doing a happy hour here at 6:30 to 8. I got a box around it. And so just go through and make boxes around the things that you have in your calendar for next week. I'm going to give you 3 minutes to do it. And then write really big in there. I put bold letters. I make mine colorful sometimes. You know, I got this really cool. I went to the doctor with my mom because she gets crazy emotional with the doctor. And this one, I got a pen that has 4 colors. Like, this is pretty cool. You can buy one of those. But just take a quick minute and 3 minutes and just really take everything out. I want you to visually look at your calendar for next week. I'm going to put on some thinking music for y'all. Oh, all right. I turned it off a minute ago. Oh, we got 6 colors over here and Twizzlers licorice. I mean, come on. And gummy bears too, my second favorite candy. I actually got excited about this because I bought a 7 color pen when I was in Europe last summer with my daughter. And I had 50 realtors in my office and I dropped it and one of them stole it. But I'm actually pretty okay with my 4 color pen. Yes, ma'am. Page 15. Nope, you're doing next week. I want you to look at your week next week. Like, what are you actually doing next week? I know it's not in the exact right spot in the calendar, but no, actually it's in the right spot. And so just write it in there and then put in your weekend, right? Like, any Caitlin Clark fans in the room? One, that's good. All right, I'm going to see Caitlin Clark next Friday. It's exciting. So as you're doing that, what I want you to think about is we're talking about choices and activities. And so when you're writing those things down, I want you to be thinking about, is this an activity that's going to drive my business forward? Is this something I'm obligated to do that I'm doing and I really shouldn't be doing? All right, I'm turning off my music already. Is anyone here seeing something on their calendar for next week that they think that they probably should not have committed to? All right, you're still on Monday. Okay. All right, then I should put that music back on. I turned it off, but I guess I've been doing this for 7 years in my planner, so I'm pretty fast at it. All right, are you all at least through Wednesday? You guys have busy schedules. That's good. All right, I'm gonna give you 1 more minute to get as far as you can get. All right, I hear people talking. So who has on their calendar something that they realize now they maybe shouldn't have committed to? It's not going to drive you towards where you're trying to go. Any of you? Not one of you. All right, there we go. Sarah, that's good. You're living in a van. Come on, that's great. Oh, Shayla does. Perfect. That's a great observation, right? What I tend to find is, we talked about it earlier. Deborah said that the worst time to think about what you're going to say is in the moment you're saying it, right? And so the worst time to have a meeting or a conversation is when you're not prepared for it. And what I find is that we talked about this 20% that we're trying to do in order to grow, right? What's the 20% of the 20%? How do we even narrow down what we're going to do? And we don't have that scheduled. And that's why we don't have those bumpers up to keep us out of trouble, or we're not prepared for what we're going to do. And I finally did figure out what Josh said. Now let me see if I can reread it. He said, you have to move the needle the furthest, the fastest, and do it first, right? And so when I first started teaching Win by Noon, I would get up and I would ask an audience. Now, this was a big mistake. You don't want to insult people in the first 30 seconds or make them feel bad about themselves. But I said, how many of you ever gotten to the end? How many of you woken up in the morning and made an incredible to-do list and gotten to the end of the day and realized you didn't accomplish your most important priorities? And people either raise their hand or they would just lose eye contact with me because they were disappointed. So now I would say, normally, if I'm talking to a group of realtors or loan officers, hey, I bet you're a bit like me. That's a Phil Jones thing. And you've woken up, you've had a great to-do list, you've gotten to the end of the day, and you haven't accomplished those most important priorities. And it's super common, right? If we don't, we run in there, right? We've all had that where we're driving to work and our processor calls us and is like, hey, we're not going to close unless you get that pay stub today. And you were trying to do your 10 calls like Josh is doing to important people, realtors, partners, and all those things. We get distracted and pulled away. And so the first thing that I would encourage you all to do is pick a time. It could be the end of the day Friday. For me, it's typically when I'm drinking coffee Sunday morning before my family wakes up. If it's a crazy busy weekend, it might be Monday morning before I get going. But I do my ideal week so I can look at what do I have? Where are the opportunities for me to schedule meetings, right? So in the old days when I was doing loans, I scheduled meetings in the afternoons for realtors or for clients, and they were open meetings, but I blocked them on my calendar so that nobody else could put something dumb on there, right? When I say nobody else, it was typically me. I would put the dumb stuff on there. But I also had an assistant. I had a business development manager. I had a business partner, and I had my wife who works in the business. And so that's why I started blocking my calendar from 8:30 to 11:30, because I realized the number one thing that was keeping me stuck. Now, I was stuck at a really good number. I was stuck at 400 loans a year for 3 straight years, but my vision was to be a $100 million producer. And so when I went into that next year and I blocked my calendar from 8:30 to 11:30, and I forced myself to do the things we all know we need to do. We all know we need to call more realtors. We know we need to make our client calls, right? We know we need to make those update calls on Tuesdays. We know we need to call our pre-approved clients to keep in touch with them. We know we got to call our realtors then to give them updates. We know all these things, but it always becomes second to the fires that are there unless we put it first. And so I love that Josh said he puts it first. And so, Win by Noon it's a tool, right? I have people who tell me they use it just as their to-do list and they're more productive. But really, it's a business planning and accountability tool, right? It has all the things that every coaching program uses. It's one of the things I love about it. It's why I'm coaching agnostic, because I've got clients who buy the planner for every coaching program that's out there. But it's also a philosophy, right? So we talk about this idea of doing the most important things first, because it feels really good. I mean, you can get to the end of the day and not have to worry about whatever you do. You could go golfing, you could be coding, you could go home and take care of your kid. I'm sure she answers the phone if someone calls, but she's gotten all of her proactive things out of the way in the morning so she can just react in the afternoon. I just want to real quick go to page 25 real quick, which is Thursday. So that's today. And just real quick, because I don't have time to dig in. This is just what a day looks like. And so I always just tell people, when you're going to get started with a planner, just start with the day, right? It's got, what are your top 3 things? Your top 3 things could be, what are the top 3 things that day? Or like the productivity gurus, like a Darren Hardy or something like that, would say, what are your vital 3 pieces in your role, right? I can promise you for Shayla, it's recruiting. Hers is going to be coaching, right? And then I don't know what her 3rd thing she might call it. But it could be what you do as a loan officer. It could be client consultation, realtor consultation, and realtor acquisition, right? You have different things that you're going to do. So you could do that, or it could just be your to-do list, right? Gratitude, we all know gratitude is important. And then it's from there, it's the recording of activities. How many calls am I making? How many people am I talking to? How many people am I meeting with? Because we know that the more people we talk to, the more people we meet with, the more transactions we're going to have. That's the one thing that history has proved to me. I don't think there's any coach who would argue from that the person who talks to the most people, meets with the most people, closes the most transactions. Now, you want to narrow that down. You don't want to just talk to random people. You want to be strategic in those conversations, but that's how you get there. That's how you get this accountability. And then if you go to the weekend part, which I'll dig into when we do the call, then you can actually look at your conversion rates and you can figure out how you're doing compared to how you did last week, what you're doing. So when I was secretly doing loans during COVID, it had 18 quality conversations. It took me 19 to 20 dials to get there to close 1 loan when COVID started. And then when we got 6 months into COVID, that number went up to 21, with about 22 calls on average to get to my 21 conversations to close 1 loan. But think about that. That's pretty cool. Like I've got a kid, and his name is Shay. He's 32. Allison told me, well, that's how old I am. So again, I felt really old this morning when we were driving back from our workout that I could barely move after. And I can tell you this, I mean, Shay knows that if he talks to 70 people this week, that he's on track to close 10 loans a month. And numbers are really powerful. Data doesn't lie. It also tells you what's going on in the market. It also tells you how you can improve. Now, the challenge is if you're getting leads from a real estate team that's getting online leads, you're going to have to probably talk to more people than someone who's got repeat and referral business and is just handing you their mom or their neighbor or someone for a loan. And so it's oftentimes hard to compare to other people. But if you've got people in your office who have similar businesses, they can compare. But really, you're going to compete against yourself. You're just looking, how can I improve over what I did last week and see, am I doing better? Am I doing worse? I mean, I love what Chaintree walked us through how to do a loan. And so it's just really a tool that if you get into it and you look through it and you figure out how you can maximize your time by minimizing your distractions, if you can be proactive instead of reactive, that you have an opportunity to own it and do it in the morning. That year I went from 400 loans to 551 loans, and it wasn't a refi market. Rates stayed the same. We didn't get a big builder that year. I didn't land a big team, but I was more consistent. I did all the things the year before. I just didn't do them consistently. And by blocking that time and saying, I'm going to do this, and I was pig-headed about it, I was able to grow my business. And it's over and over. I continue to see people who prioritize their most important activities first, grow further, grow faster. And so whether it's you who needs to figure out how to grow further or faster, whether it's you need to lead people to grow further faster, I hope this is a tool that you can integrate. And there's no right way to use it is the other thing. Like I'll have people who will come alongside me and they're like, oh, I'm going to see how Todd uses his planner. And yes, it was designed how I originally did it. I had a notebook. I shrunk down these pages and I taped them in the notebook. And then I had a coaching client who's like, Coach, if you could put that in a book, I can sell it to me. I could probably do more business. And so Win by Noon was born. But a lot of what's been added in there has been added in there because people have said, hey, I think it'd be cool if you had this. Hey, I think it'd be cool if you had that. If you just flip it over to the next page, you'll see it's got a to-do list. You can put your top priorities at the top. It's got personal habits. You know, I think like Shayla and a bunch of other nerds in this room, I'm really into my fitness and health. Hence the reason I'm not eating sugar, which is really sad for me. It's got the highs of my day at the end. It's kind of the bookend, like what was the cool thing? Like, so for me the other night, it was sitting out there pretending I was a supermodel sitting next to Shayla while Brandon took our pictures, like 1,000 pictures with one of those high-speed cameras. It was really embarrassing, but it was fun. And so like, what are those things that you look back on? And I actually like that. I can look back at last week and see, well, what was really a big victory of last week? What was a victory a month ago? And so it also is one of those things where you can look back at it. I do have a realtor, and I went to his office. He literally has a stack. It's like this tall. He's used it for over 7 years. And he said, well, for me, he doesn't use the left side of the other page for the calendar. He says, I just write what I did during the day. So he uses that as his accountability tool. He said he puts in his phone what he wants to do. And he says that's a good alibi because he can go back there if the police are ever like, where were you on January 3rd, 2019? He's got it in his planner. And I'm like, all right, if that works for you, it works for me. But again, he uses it different, right? He corrects me when I teach it to his team because every year I teach it differently than he uses it. It's 4:38. I have a flight. All right, so let me just put a bow on it because that's all of the planner I wanted to show you anyway. I want you to play with it. I want you to use it. You're going to have whatever, almost 2 weeks till I teach it. And I want you just to play with it. I want you to come up with ideas and questions. I did learn today, I forgot who said it. I have leads in here. I'm going to change that in the future. It's going to say referrals. I like that. I don't remember who was that. Was that you, Allison? No, Brendan said that. All right, well, I'll give Brendan credit for it. Choices and actions, right? You know, we all have the same 24 hours in a day. We all have other people in our life that count. We all count, right? We've all had a rough run the last 18 months. It's been a hard charge for people. And what I have found over 7.5 years of hearing from the users of Win by Noon is that the folks who use it in whatever level they use it find more peace. They typically find, they tell me the word balance. Again, I'm not a big believer in balance. I think that there's just give and take, but they feel like they have reminders to themselves about what they should be doing. I love it when someone calls and says, you know, I looked at my ideal week and I realized I had a meeting with someone who's just a time vampire. And I called them up and I said, I can't have that meeting with you. And I was like, good for you. I think you have an opportunity to take what we heard from all these people, that time is a competitive advantage, that we need to focus on the 20%, that we have to make choices with our time, that we have to have standards like Josh has, that we have to be committed. And then when we know what we need to do, we need to take action. And the way to take action is to block your time, put up those bumpers, right? Mark off an hour or two in the morning to do those most important priorities. If you have a different role, like maybe like Shayla does, schedule that time to work on the things that you need to do to move your business forward. I do find that the number one area where people lack is the time of on time, right? Working on your business. That would be a perfect thing to schedule, so it's not looked over, right? Brett talked about the fact that he watched a lot of game tape, right? I've been there too. And so what I always do is I always schedule typically the first half a day after I go to an event like this to review my notes. So just think how you can do that, how you can make your time your competitive advantage, how you can use this a little simple thing that's a notebook like when you're in high school that you can leave on your desk, that you can throw in a backpack, and how maybe it can help you be slightly more productive. Maybe it can help you lead others slightly better. Maybe it'll remind you that it's time to go home to your family. Maybe it'll remind you that you have an opportunity to do that thing that you've put off. And what I do know is that you have an opportunity to live a little more rad of a life. And I think that this is just one tool. If you don't use the tool, use the philosophy of doing those first things first. And I think you have this great opportunity to take what you've learned here, take whatever coaching program you're part of, and just use this possibly as just an easy button for you to track those things, record the activities, track the results, look at the conversion rates. And I hope that you find it's a good opportunity for you. I hope you can jump on the Zoom. I'll dig in deeper. We'll get into the weeds on it. And I just want to say thanks to you all for being here, paying attention, even at the end of the 2 days. Thanks, Shayla. Thanks to Shayla's crew. It's just an honor always to have the opportunity to present. And I'm going to go take action and get on a plane.